Hello, welcome back. Well, that's what you're probably saying to me. I've been gone for 10 months. Where have I been? I've been suffering, working at school, but now I'm doing a lot better, way better. So I was in the mood to edit. I was on YouTube and I saw an iceberg chart video. And then I saw one, then I kept seeing more, and I kept watching and watching them. And I realized, hey, it would be really fucking fun if I could come back with this video. An hour long video, the longest video I have made, and that's not a stream, that I would just contribute to and educate y'all with some type of shit. So here I am, I'm here making one right now, and I gotta say, I'm enjoying myself. I really am enjoying myself. I had to restart this intro a few times, one in the morning and one now. But basically, what an iceberg chart is, it's this iceberg on. This is an iceberg chart. It's not really an iceberg, but this is the iceberg that I'm doing right now. An iceberg chart is actually a chart that pops up on screen right here. And the higher you are in this iceberg, the more known the information is. The lower you are, the more obscure it is. The higher it is, there's like common knowledge type stuff and all that good shit. And basically, I would like to thank Sustained Disgust on Reddit. Check out their Reddit. They have a ton of icebergs on there that are actually really well made. They gave me permission to use this iceberg chart, and I'm ecstatic that they actually let me use it. I'm glad I was able to do an iceberg chart this long for my first one. If you guys have any constructive criticism, I'd love to hear it. Anything I can improve on for these types of videos, because I plan on making more. Basically, before I start this video, I gotta give out a quick warning saying that if you have a weak brain meat, do not watch this, because I do not want to be held liable for if you guys go insane about thinking of something like the Roko's basilisk, which we will get to in a second. A lot of these things are very thought-provoking. Some of them aren't as thought-provoking. They're very straightforward topics that I can just give you a quick summary on, and if you'd like to research some of this stuff, I recommend go do it yourself. Enjoy this video. It took a lot of time to make. Please like, subscribe, do whatever you gotta do. Please make me happy, blow this up. I want to get out of the hood. I would be ecstatic if this blew up and this was my debut of 2022. We're 2 months in. I'm sorry I haven't posted. I am making this recording on the 21st. I think you guys might be seeing this on the 22nd or the 23rd. I'm not too sure yet, but hopefully if you're watching this, like I said, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. Yeah, let's dive right into this depression. That's the first fuck up I've had. That shit ain't gonna happen. That shit ain't gonna slide around here. Let's get to this depression-ridden iceberg right now. We're starting at tier 1. Book. We follow this character called Esther Greenwood. She's the main character of this story, and she's presented in front of this fig tree, and in each of these figs of this tree is a different life, and she sees these different lives, and all of them are great lives. She's a famous author, I think, in one of them, and she's also an Olympian in one of them, and she has, in another one of them, she has a kid and her husband, and they're living happy lives. And if whichever one she chooses, she can only choose one life, and if she chooses one, the rest disappear, but she wants all of them. And she eventually just sits there and starves and waits. She's deciding on which one she wants. But she's under a time limit because the fig tree is slowly rotting, but this is unknown to her. And then the fig tree just dies, and all the figs fall down one by one, and eventually she loses everything and just starves. And this is a small excerpt about this book, and it really makes you think. Like, it really just makes you think of just decision making and choices. It's pretty deep. I want you guys to give me like your interpretations of this. What do you think about it? You know, because this one, I was writing the script for this, and it instantly made me think. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. But moving on, we're going on to the second topic, and that is the death drive. The death drive is a theory made by Sigmund Freud that the aim of all life is death. He believed that humans had 2 different drives in life, and that the death drive is just the main thing we're working toward. There's other like drives. The life drive is referred to as sexual behaviors like reproduction, and the death drive is manifested in humans as aggression and anger toward other people, and it can be directed inwards, and it can inflict self-harm and suicide. Freud has done a lot of research on this topic. he was going to he did an experiment with soldiers, with World War I soldiers, and he found that these soldiers would go back and harm themselves with these depressing, like they would basically go back to the war, basically shell shock, and they would just get really depressed off of these thoughts, and it could lead to self-harm or suicide, and they just relive these traumatic thoughts that they went through during the war. And that's basically what he got from this research. And moving on, we got Lovecraftian cosmicism, and this entry refers to the H.P. Lovecraft. If you haven't heard of this name, where the fuck have you been? It's basically, he basically says that there is no divine presence such as a god, and that humans in the grand scheme of things are insignificant, and we fear the incomprehensive, like, large ass universe that we live in, and we're just a speck of dust in it. And like, and no matter what we do, no matter if we discover hyperspace travel, it still wouldn't matter, because we have no power in this vast universe that we live in, and like, we're just a speck of dust. I don't know if this thought comes up when I think about this. I think that since the universe is always expanding and growing, I think that once humans inevitably go extinct, that our history will be completely unknown to everybody. Like, we will basically cease to exist. Like, obviously we will, because we'll be extinct, but nobody's gonna remember us. There will be nobody to remember us. We will have made no impact, no matter how much trash we throw out in that universe. Like, no, humans will never be, like, figured out by anybody. Nobody will remember us once we're gone, and I think that's fucking sad as shit, because what's the point of even doing what we do if it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things? Holy shit, that cut was fucking horrendous. Bear with me here on this next topic, though. This next topic is Roko's basilisk, and bear with me here because it's hard to explain, and I'm going to be fully transparent. I am not the guy to explain this to you. This is like, I'm going to give you a quick brief explanation. I feel like I can go deeper, but I just can't find the words to explain it. There are other people that go in deeper to this. I recommend you doing that if you're interested in this topic. Personally, me, after reading this, because I was trying to do another iceberg before this one, and this was the very last topic, and I'm not gonna lie, this topic is kind of disappointing. It's not disappointing, it's still interesting, but it just shouldn't be the last tier. I think it's perfectly placed here at the first tier. Basically, Roko's basilisk is a thought experiment that basically says that an all-powerful AI will come into existence and torture you if you don't help bring it into existence. And basically why this is so scary is because this AI is so smart that it's already calculated that it will have people to bring it into existence, and those people that didn't help bring it in, it'll do its bidding. It'll fucking torture them for the rest of for eternity, all of eternity. That torture will never end. You'll basically be in hell before you get there. So that's where my explanation of that thought experiment ends, because I can't explain it further. There's other people that do it better. I just can't find the literal words. I feel like I've already covered it, but it goes deeper for sure. People have reported like an existential fear of dread when they think about this thought experiment. And personally, if you're that smart to think of a thought experiment that can drive people insane, that shows how terrifying the human mind can be. This next topic is the Great Silence, or the Fermi paradox. Fermi paradox basically argues that if two extraterrestrial beings exist, why haven't they contacted each other? And why haven't they known about each other's existence? And this basically goes on to say that the lifetimes of civilizations are very short, and for various reasons, humans see no evidence of alien life. And since the universe is so vast, it's unlikely that we will ever meet any kind of aliens in our lifetimes, in anybody's lifetime for that matter. And that's basically what this is saying. And it really does beg the question, if we're the only living creatures in this universe, that's fucking a terrifying thought. And if we are, have we been the only ones, or have there been any kind of intelligent beings before us that we haven't been able to communicate or even see evidence of because of the massively expanding universe? It's a very depressing thought to think about, because we could either be just all alone or just never finding that those aliens. I personally believe in aliens. Like, I think there's got to be something out there, but this really does make you think: are we the only ones here, or at this moment? And how will we ever see anything, or is it just us here? Are we stuck with each other? Because personally, I hope there's some other type of terrestrial life. This next topic is the Doomer, and this entry is very common. You see this in news outlets and people being worried, saying that we're killing the earth and polluting it with problems like overpopulation, climate change, and peak oil. It's called Doomerism, and the Doomers make the argument that the ideas will bring holy shit, this is a mouthful. Malthusianism. I think that's it. I think I actually got it this take. It took me like 5 takes to do that shit. Let's fucking go. I think. But it's another entry on this iceberg, and it basically, I'm gonna knock out 2 birds with 1 stone and explain it here. It's the idea that the population is always growing and it won't stop, and these resources that we have now will eventually run out, and it will basically lead to a societal collapse. And that's, I don't know what else to say. It's very self-explanatory, and that's basically what Doomerism is. It's not too, you don't have to explain it too much. It's very straightforward. Moral nihilism is the other entry on this iceberg, and it basically implies that nothing is morally wrong or right. And moral nihilists agree that claims like murder aren't morally wrong. Like, they're not, it's not, like, it's meaningless basically. Like, it's not morally right or wrong. We just give these things economic and social value just to, stay positive in a kind of sense of the actions that we do. Basically, they argue that morality is useless. There's no morality in life, that it's very subjective, and it's a construct basically. That's basically what this entry is referring to. If you guys have any other perception of it, I'd love to hear it in the comment section. That's basically what I deducted from this research right here. I'm using a lot of big fancy words right now, but that's basically what I got from this. I'd love to hear what you guys think. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments, because a lot of this nihilism stuff is very subjective. I would like to see what people think about this type of stuff. Moving on, we have The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. That's the next entry on this iceberg. This entry refers to The Selfish Gene, and that is a book written in 1976 about evolution by ethologist Richard Dawkins. God damn it, I am butchering these words. But let's continue. So basically, The Selfish Gene basically says that, I'm going to give you a quick example, and this example is, let's say there's a tribe of good-natured people that only hunt animals and plant crops. And amongst them is a savage and barbaric tribe. Eventually, this other savage and barbaric tribe, given the chance, they will wipe out this peaceful natured tribe just because they want to spread land and conquer the surrounding area, or spread their genes basically. And the tribe of good-natured people, all of their genes will cease to exist, and we will be left with these genes of just savage natured people who don't give a shit basically. That would basically mean that you have the genes of a mass murdering psychopath back in the day that had to do what he had to do to survive. You could have the genes of a cannibal, like from millions and millions of years ago. My man's had to do what he had to do to survive. But moving on to the next topic, we have Brain in a Vat. Brain in a Vat is a thought experiment where a mad scientist or an AI puts your brain in a life-sustaining liquid, connects the neurons with wires, and connects it to like a supercomputer basically, and sends impulses that gives you the thoughts of a normal brain basically. You can interpret that as you like. Hopefully you understand what I'm implying here, and you just have to wake up. None of this is real. You're in a tube. Wake up. Moving on to the next topic, we have Better Never to Have Been, and a South African philosopher, David Bentenar, states that human beings are hurt by their parents when they are given birth to, and thereby wronging them, meaning all human life is in a prolonged state of pain and harm as a result of being born. The next topic we have on here is the world as will and representation, and it takes the transcendental idealism of Immanuel Kant and argues that the world humans experience around them is a world of objects in space and time, and related in casual ways exists solely as a representation dependent on a cognizing subject, not as a world that can be considered to exist in itself. This basically goes off of the ideas of Platonism, and it's a view that there exists such things as abstract objects, where an abstract object is an object that doesn't necessarily exist in space or time, which is therefore entirely non-physical and non-mental. We must make Sisyphus happy is another entry on this iceberg, and it brings up the philosophy of the absurd, and this is the philosophy of Albert Camus. And he basically says that the absurd lies in the juxtaposition between the fundamental human need to attribute meaning to life and the unreasonable silence of the universe in response. Camus was asked one time in an interview, does a realization of the absurd require suicide? And Albert Camus responded, no, it requires a revolt. He then outlined several approaches to the absurd life in the final chapter. Camus compares the absurdity of man's life with the situation of Sisyphus, a figure of Greek mythology who's condemned to repeat forever the same meaningless task of pushing a boulder up a mountain only to see it roll down again. The essay concludes, the struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. The other entry on this iceberg is Dionysian pessimism. And Dionysian pessimism is a perspective on life that can draw sustenance rather than recoil from the disordered, disenchanted world left to us after the demise of metaphysics. And Friedrich Nietzsche. We're gonna go with Nietzsche. Let me correct this real quick. Nietzsche believed that this task of this philosophy was to be held as a hammer and attack the basis of old moralities and make oneself a new pair of wings. A key feature to this pessimism was saying yes to the changing nature of this world and embracing destruction and suffering joyfully. Nietzsche believed that this was used for one's good health, and it was a remedy to aid in the service of growing and struggling life. This next entry on the iceberg is the Industrial Revolution, and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. This entry says that the Industrial Revolution has greatly increased life expectancy of those who live in advanced countries, but have destabilized society and has made life unfulfilling. This has subjected human beings to indignities and has led to widespread psychological suffering and have inflicted severe damage on the natural world, and its continued development of technology will worsen the situation. It will certainly subject human beings to greater indignities and inflict greater damage on the natural world. This is another one of those entries that really makes you think, because we are living it right now. Like, we live most of these, but I can really feel the effects of this one, especially now with all the talks of global warming happening and how we are destroying the natural world around us. And you always hear like science teachers always, and like professors or whatever, talking about how we burned a hole in the ozone layer this one time, and like how, you know, it could have led to a great catastrophe and all that. I really feel this one because I've always been scared of global warming, honestly. Like, I've always been scared of global warming and damaging the world with all the harmful gases that we're putting onto it. So I can really relate to this one. But the next entry on this iceberg is the Stanford prison experiment. If you don't know what the Stanford prison experiment is, you have been living under a fucking rock. Let me tell you that right now. This is a great story, and it really shows how if you give someone power, a little bit of power over somebody, they will take advantage of it and abuse this other person. The Stanford prison experiment was an experiment where they had like groups of two groups of people, and one was prison guards and the others was prison inmates. And for 6 days, the inmates suffered cruel and dehumanizing abuse from their peers that were the guards, and it was because they had that little bit of power over them, and they stripped them naked, they hosed them down, they were made to use buckets as toilets, and some of the patients became very hysterical and withdrew into despair. And according to the man who did this experiment and his colleagues, the Stanford prison experiment revealed how people will readily conform to the social roles they are expected to play. And it was really bad. They were giving their own like personal clothing that they had. They were like issued a uniform and referred to them by their number only, and it got really bad. And I'm pretty sure they had to cancel the experiment early because it was just getting really bad for the inmates. And it just really shows how cruel people can be. Honestly, it's that easy. It's very straightforward, and you should definitely look at, I think I'm gonna play a clip right here of the actual prison experiment because I think they have a clip. So let me roll that real quick if I can find it. You can only imagine how dehumanizing that must have been for the actual inmates, and it's super fucking horrible. That was actually a clip from the movie called The Hole. I'm gonna link that, and I'm gonna link the clip I found in the description. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted for this, but we're moving on to the next entry in this iceberg, and that is the Milgram experiment, and that was an obedience to authority figures test, and it was a series of social psychology experiments conducted by Yale University psychologist Stanley Milgram, and they measured the willingness of study participants of men in the age range of 20 to 50 years old, and they had diverse levels of education to obey authority figure who instructed them to perform acts conflicting with their personal conscience. Participants were led to believe that they were assisting an unrelated experiment in which they had to administer shocks to a learner, and those fake shocks gradually increased levels that would have been fatal if they would have been real. The experiment found unexpectedly that a very high portion of subjects would fully obey instructions, albeit reluctantly. And this really is another one. Humans can be fucking evil sometimes. They will fuck if they're like, not because they are evil, well, maybe because they are deep down inside psychopathic and evil, but it shows that if it's not them getting shocked, they don't care. They will listen to this authority figure. None of them will like revolt or go against this authority figure, and it's really sad to see. But the next entry on this iceberg is the denial of death. The denial of death was the premise that human civilization is an ultimately elaborate symbolic defense mechanism against the knowledge of our morality, which in turn acts as an emotional and intellectual response to our basic survival mechanism. And this was made by Ernest Becker, and he was an American cultural anthropologist and the author of 1974 Pulitzer Prize winning book of The Denial of Death, which is the entry that we're talking about. Ernest Becker goes on to argue that the duality in human life exists between the physical world of objects and biology and the symbolic world of human meaning. Thus, since humanity has a dualistic nature consisting of a physical self and a symbolic self, we're able to transcend the dilemma of morality by focusing our attention mainly on our symbolic selves. Nausea is another entry on this iceberg of the story of Antoine Roko. He's a French writer who's horrified at his own existence, and in his diary he catalogs his feeling and sensation of the people in the world around him, and his thoughts culminate in a persuasive and overpowering feeling of nausea. And Roko efforts to try to come to terms with his life messes up with his philosophical and psychological struggles. His feelings also come from what he calls contingency, and he feels that people attribute essences to objects and supply a reason for the existence, since human existence is contingent, meaning anything can happen at any moment, and Roko finds no reason for existence. He claims that it is just a free gift. So we have made it to the final entry on this iceberg. Finally, or not the iceberg, the final entry of tier 1 of this iceberg, and it is Solipsism. And it is the philosophical idea that only one's mind is sure to exist, and an epistemological position. Solipsism holds knowledge of anything outside one's own mind is unsure. So, have you ever had the feeling or the thought that once you walk away from someone and they're out of your sight and range, like they're NPCs and they're chunks that haven't loaded it yet? To put it simply, this is what solipsism is. That's basically where you think nobody else is real but yourself. I've thought about this before. When I was in the 3rd grade, I remember thinking right now my mom does not exist. It is just me right here, right now. Anyways, that is the last entry of this iceberg, and I'd like to say thank you guys so much for watching. Plans have changed throughout the course of this video. I've been making this for 2 days now, and I just this is gonna be a 3-hour long video if I release it all in one bit. So I'm actually gonna release every tier as one part. Maybe I might do 2 tiers as one part during the end, because the tiers do get a little shorter. So maybe that might be the case, but I want to see how this video does by itself. Obviously, I gotta promote it and all that stuff, but I want to see how this video does, and to see, I'm not gonna quit out for people who actually want to watch, because there might be 1 or 2 people who actually might want to watch it, and I will release all. If I do it by one tier, 9 parts, then I will have released all of them. I'm not gonna skip out because it does bad. But yeah, I'm very excited to even be making this video and produce it. I want to I want to release it, or I already want to release it. I want to release it so bad. So I'm going to end up making this a partly series. I know in the intro I did say it was different. I'm going to go back and edit it. But nonetheless, thank you guys for watching and, listening to me ramble about this depressing ass iceberg. If you would like to see more, please like and subscribe. Also, don't say shit about me stuttering and fucking up words in this fucking iceberg, because I like making my content natural. I like for you guys to see my mistakes. That's why I will be running a blooper reel right now. So thanks again for watching. If you have made it here, bro, thank you. I genuinely thank you. Honestly, if you comment fucking sausage fingers at the end of this video, I will know you've watched it all the way through, and I will personally I'll put up a shout out tab in the next video. So just in case this does blow up, y'all gonna be right there with me. I'm gonna give you a nice little shout out. And don't worry, if you're a real one and you've seen this all the way through, it don't matter if you took a few days to watch it, comment sausage fingers. That's the only thing that popped up to my mind. But anyways, like and subscribe, share this video out. I'm trying to blow up, and thanks for watching, and hopefully you want to stay for this blooper reel I'm running. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you guys later. This next entry on the iceberg is the Industrial Revolution, and its consequences have been Day 2. The Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. The Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Holy shit, I said that twice. I'm not letting that happen again in a video. Day 3. And that is the Milgram experiment. The Milgram experiment was an fuck! Day 4. And that is the Milgram experiment. This experiment was in obedience to... Oh my fucking... Again? 3 weeks later. Denial of death was the premise of that. Oh, fuck. How do I keep messing up? Many months later. He catalogs his feeling and sensation about the world and people around him. His thoughts. I didn't fuck up on the French name, but I fuck up on this.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
Nausea is another entry on this iceberg, and nausea refers to the story of
Tomorrow.
Now we've made it to the final entry on this iceberg, which is tier 1, and it is solipsism, and it is the physiological. Oh my God, the last one.
I put a phone on my spine, little baby. She told me that I gotta do better. Stuck in my ways and I'm never gonna change. You can't hate on me, young and